morning, lovely people. How are you today? Are you well? Please say you're well. I hope you're well. And if you have been unwell, I hope you're getting better. I am getting soggier by the minute. Okay, so you will have seen yesterday. I'm carrying on. I came to the shed and I started talking about memories of the ward I used to work on. I took a deep breath, had a few minutes. I'm back to normal now. It's lovely to think back. Anyway, back to the present, back to the future. Well, the present. It is unbelievably muggy today. It's horrid. So, a few of the things I was planning to do in the garden today, I don't know whether to do, or if I do them as my last job. So, for instance, remember I took my new potatoes out of that bed, but I thought I'd left loads of them down in the ground because I didn't have the right shoes on for forking down there. So I've got my right shoes on today so I can have a really good fork, but it is going to make me drip like a wet rag, so I might leave that right to the end. There are a few things that I can do which are nice and quiet and slow, because honestly at the moment I feel like if I move my little finger, break out into a sweat. So yeah, get on with a few things. I could probably do with getting on with some harvesting. Now we're at that stage in the year where the harvests are more than I can eat today and tomorrow, for example. So we're at that stage when whatever I take home by way of harvest, I need to deal with today. In other words, get things prepped for the freezer, that sort of thing. Well, that's it mainly at the moment. So it's that thing of thinking ahead to, by the time I've done the gardening jobs I want to do, and the harvesting, and then a couple of hours of watering, because that's what it's taking now. It's crazy dry. By the time I've done all that and got home, will I really want to then spend a couple of hours in the kitchen chopping and blanching things? If the answer to that is no, then I won't do the harvest now. What I would do is come down early one morning to harvest, water, go home, do all my prep, get it frozen, and then have the late afternoon and evening to do other stuff. That's probably what I'll do. The other thing is I've got something quite big to take home. Check this out. See, it's massive. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on. It's look, it's massive. It's a huge sack of airbags, you know, for packing material. It's from a plot neighbour. My plot neighbours are great about this. I've also got a box of the, you know, like the cheesy Whatsits packing material. So, basically friends down here, they know, you know, obviously about my little shop. So when they receive anything in the post that comes with all sorts of packing material, especially this sort of plastic stuff, which we don't want to just throw away. You know, obviously if it's paper or cardboard, they can shred it and put it in their compost. But when it's something plasticky, they pass it on to me, and then I can use it for packaging parcels that I'm sending out, and whoever receives it can then use it for something else. So hopefully we just keep using and using and using the same stuff. But yeah, it's a bit big for me to get home later on. Anyway, enough of that. I'm going to start today in the tomatoes. Now, Mary, hello Mary, and Karen, hello Karen, both mentioned, well I think Karen did, I'll come to that in a second, mentioned tomatoes after my tour video a few days ago. There is a video at the end of June, I might try and tag it onto the end of this one, where I'm doing the first of my tomato cares, going through various bits and pieces. So you can refer to that if you're worrying or wondering about tomato cares. And Karen was asking me about pinching out in order to get more fruits. Now, I'm not sure what fruits she was referring to, but I think it's maybe tomatoes. So I thought we'd start today because I need to do some more tomato cares today. And by way of me doing it, I can share with you what I'm doing. And then if you haven't grown tomatoes before, or, you know, maybe it's your second year of growing them and you're still not sure, I'm not saying I know best, but I can just share with you what I do, and generally I get quite a nice harvest. So get yourself some nice cold water and come with me down the garden and let's start tucking into these tomatoes. Just before I go down into the garden, morning buddy, he's already been for cuddles, he's just having a nice little cat nap. I thought I'd quickly give you an update on the Taunton Dean cuttings. They're looking really good. I'm chuffed. Look at all that growth. So if you remember when I put these in here, these were tiny, scrappy little things. Let me show you one on its own. Tiny little scrap of a thing, and you can see that leaf, and let's move that. Those are the two leaves that it had. Died back. Oh, yeah, completely died back. But in the middle, as I pointed out, I think it was about 2 weeks ago. No, I think it was about 3 weeks ago I took the cuttings, and 2 weeks ago I showed you in the centres of each of them the first little signs of new life. I mean, it's looking great. I'm chuffed. So there are those two. In here there are, oh, I think we've had some nibbles. I've been checking this pot for slugs and snails when I've been down to water. But yeah, they're all looking pretty good. Of the honeysuckle, if you remember, I think it was 6 cuttings. Well, 2 of them keeled over straight away, and it looks like that one and that one have also keeled over. But this one and this one, they're still looking absolutely fine. And you know, I think I said when I first took the cuttings, if I can just get 2 to take, I'll be happy. Even 1 to take, I'll be happy. So hopefully, come next spring, they'll be good and big and strong, and I can plant them down at my, up the fence, sort of behind the compost bins, to come up and over the fence. But yeah, I'm absolutely chuffed with that, with this site, because, oh, well, as you all know, brassicas have not been my friends this year. Yay! All right, let's go and see to these tomatoes. Even before I start in on the tomatoes, I just have to mention the lavender. So I've just brushed past it to get to my seat. The smell it's released, and once again, it's covered in bees, absolutely covered. There's a mixture of bumblebees and honeybees. It is such a happy sight. Let's leave them to it. Right, the tomatoes. So, I've been quite good this year about staying on top of my tomato cares, both in terms of removing side trusses that I don't want, side shoots, and giving my aspirin sprays. Like I said, I'll tag the other video and I'll put a card of it on at the end, because that explains and shows how and why I do all those things. So I've stayed mostly on top of it, and at the moment we've got to the stage where, oh, there's one little one. The little side shoots that I pinch out, they've really slowed down. Earlier in the season, it's sort of like you remove all your side shoots, you step away for half an hour to have a glass of water, you come back and they've all started again, but they've slowed down. So we're now at the stage in the season where I'm just mostly focusing on pruning the leaves. So as the plant's growing, it's producing more leaves. All these leaves, obviously it's using the leaves to photosynthesize. Obviously it's using its roots down there to get water and other nutrients. But a lot of the leafage can go. I might have to move up the plant a bit. What I tend to do is, when I've got my first truss of fruits forming, or my first flower truss, I remove all the leaves below it. in particular the leaves towards the ground, just because of that whole splash of water and blight that I've talked about. But we're not really in blight territory at the moment. Well, we're not at all in blight territory, because for blight we need two things: warmth and moisture. And despite the fact that it's very humid at the moment, there's no wetness settling on the leaves. So I'm not doing any of this today because of blight. I'm now starting to think about the fruit and getting it ripened. So I am removing more of the lower leaves. So leaves now between flower trusses number 1, right down there, up to about number 3. Just let that light get to them. I am still interested in air circulation around the plants. So with some leaves I'll just cut them in half, where they're sort of overlapping with each other, just like I said, keep that air circulation. But also, as I said, because as the plant's growing, it's producing more and more leaves. It's got leaves up there. Out of the corner of my eye, I keep thinking someone's standing there watching me. It's my neighbour's sunflowers. There's about 3 of them which have got really, really big heads, and it looks like there's a little row of people behind my fence watching me. It's very disconcerting. Okay, focus, Vivi. Yeah, so if your tomatoes have become an absolute untamed mess, firstly, look for those little side shoots. So you've got your stem, you've got your leaf here, and in that crook, in that V, that's where your little extra shoots are coming. So if it's a cordon type tomato, and a tomato that's going up, 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 rather than a bush, get those side trusses out. Get your lower leaves off. If you've got a mass of leaves hiding the fruits, you could either take, say you've got 3 or 4 leaves hiding the fruit, you could maybe take 2 of them off and 1 of them maybe cut in half. We do need some leafage still, as I said, for photosynthesis, but yeah, a lot of them can come off. Now, like I said in the shed, I'm not saying I'm right, I'm not saying I'm a genius, I'm not saying do what I do, I'm just responding to folk who ask what I do, because I seem to do all right out of my tomatoes. So this will take me it's probably going to be the best part of an hour. So I'm going to give you a little before shot and then an after shot. This is the before shot. Quite a jungle, quite a jungle, and hopefully I'll do an after shot in a moment, and hopefully you'll be able to see the difference. And that's the after shot. So hopefully you can see how, yeah, I've massively pruned them, thinned them out, and you can see how now these lower trusses of fruit, which are obviously the first to form, and therefore they're going to be the first to start to ripen, they're now nicely exposed to the sun. And then as we move further up, obviously this is where I've either left leaves whole or just half leaves, and it's beautiful, you know, seeing new trusses forming all the time from there, here and here, and by the time these are formed and I've got lovely fruits, all of these will have either been scoffed or bottled. So this is all the gardener's delight, absolute firm favourite with mine. They do give nice long trusses. They are a good prolific cropper. They're great for preserving, they're great for eating raw, yum, yum, yum. Oh, I just wanted to mention, I've left it out to remind myself, it's something I get asked about. So I've had a bucket this size of clippings per row. So this is my 4th bucket. Yes, I do compost it because there's no blight, there's no disease, so it can all be composted. Now it's a lot of green, so I'm going to be mixing it with some of my brown. And just to say that you may be noticing on your lower leaves, on your tomatoes, some of them trying to show you. See, going a bit yellow, they're starting to go a bit crispy. They're just dying back. This isn't disease, it's just the leaves dying back. This will be on your lower leaves. If you see that in your upper leaves, I'm not sure what that means, but the upper leaves shouldn't be doing it, so look at the rest of the plant. Yeah, so that's all going to go in the compost, and it's lovely. Now I can really start to see my fruit, and yes! So I showed you these in the August tour, but look how they've ripened in the last few days. What beauties. Now, I didn't pick any the other day because there were only about 4 ripe, and I wanted to wait to have, oops, trying to get in here. I wanted to wait to have loads ripe in order to actually have a meal of them, which I do believe there might be. So I think some of these may be coming home with me today. Oh, what a pretty sight. Yeah, so now all the lower fruits on each plant are nicely exposed to the sun now. I've trimmed, because I've done the prunings, not just the lower ones but cutting in half. There's a good bit of space around each plant now, so that if we do get rain and we get into that kind of blight territory, well, there's enough space around each plant for good air circulation for drying. But I'm loving it now, being able to see the fruits forming. So these are the Amish paste. God, beautiful whoppers. The other thing I mentioned the other day about they seem really, really droopy. So I'll just let you guys know as well, for any of you who haven't grown it. I am reassured that Amish paste does have a droopy looking leaf. I mean, look, it looks so droopy. I was really worried. I was like, what do you want? Tell me what you want. Do you want feeding? Do you want pruning? Do you want watering? I've done a bit of everything. But yeah, apparently that's just how they are. Of course, slightly malfunctioning whopper in there. Lovely. And then next door, this is all the Rose de Berne. These don't go red, but rather a sort of a pinky red, hence the name Rose. Right, I'm glad to get that job done. Just one last thing to say about the toms. I'll come back this way to explain. Here, I'm just going to adjust a second. Ready for your close-ups? Right, you can see there's the top of the steak. This is the top of the tomato. It's got a massive lean on it, and it hasn't stopped growing. That tomato is now, it's over 5 feet tall, because it's almost as tall as me. I'm 5'10". Yeah, just over the years, when my bamboo poles have snapped, they become shorter and shorter. Obviously, I've got the new ones, which Kevin bought me a couple of years ago for the bean arches. So I'm hoping to have some taller bamboo poles at some point in the next week or so from the lovely Christina. Thank you, Christina. So hopefully I can give these a little bit better support, because the other thing is they are going to get more and more top heavy, because as I harvest from the bottom, so they have less leaves, the fruit will go, it'll all be in the top. We get a bit of wind and they'll go flying. I just love that sight of the redness. I can't wait to see this whole garden full of redness. Well, the tomato garden, except when it is full of redness, of course, that's going to mean hours and hours and hours in the kitchen. But I ain't complaining. Okay, what's my next little job? Yes, the cucumbers in the next row. Right, cucumbers. I've just got to say, I know it's absolutely not going to show on camera, but it feels like it's getting hotter and more humid by the minute. It's actually starting to feel a bit ill-making. So I don't know how much more I'll do today. It's that, when the air feels like it's too thick to breathe. Oh my goodness. Right, yes, cucumbers. So, I always get mildew on them. Exactly the same with the squash. You can see, can you see that? You can hear the leaves are all crispy, crunchy as they're sort of dying back. So I'm just going to get them all snipped off. All this. Now, the thing about mildew is, so you probably couldn't hear that because of the crunching of the leaves. The thing about it is, it doesn't actually affect the fruiting. It doesn't affect the taste of the veggies, the fruits. It doesn't, at least for me, it hasn't ever really seemed to affect the yield either. So, put it this way, I don't worry about it. It's unsightly, but I don't worry about it. Now, I've missed a trick this year and I'm really, really blimmin' kicking myself. Look, it's just been one of those years, hasn't it, where, you know, I've had to prioritise with the garden all the time. Let's face it, 2.5 months ago, I didn't even think I was going to have a garden this year. I'm making excuses for myself now because the lovely Gabby sent some potassium bicarbonate to me in powdered form, and it's supposed to be good for mildew. People use it in different ways. Some people use it as a preventative, and some people use it as a sort of so use it before you have any signs of mildew. Other people use it after the first signs of mildew to stop it in its tracks. Really, really dripping. So yeah, I'm kicking myself because time has escaped me. I haven't used it. However, I've got it in the shed. It's not going to go off, and I've now made a note to myself at home on my long-term pin board to do some research again, because I did do quite a bit of research on it, looking at both possibilities of either a preventative or a curative, all sorts of different recipes, all sorts of different ways to apply. So I'll look at all of that again over the winter, and then I will try my hardest to remember, and then I can bring that to you next year. So I'll do all the research, condense it, and then share it with you. Now, the other thing I just want to mention with the cucumbers, I tell you what, I'm going to be taking a few of these home today, whizzing them up and just drinking cucumber juice straight because it's so cooling. I'm just actually going to bring you in a little bit closer to show you what I'm talking about. Oh my goodness, I'm crouching down really low, I'm right on the ground, and I suddenly feel like one of the plot cats. But actually it's very cosy here, right down amongst all the tomatoes and the cukes. The reason I'm down here is on a stony floor. I just want to talk briefly about seed saving. Here is my chosen one of them. There's another one. Is that my chosen one? I've put oh no, it's next door. I can show you on this one, but the real one I want to save from is down there. So look, I know I talk about seed saving quite a bit. There's a couple of reasons for that. One is because you guys ask me, and of course I want to share that joy and that experience that I've had over the years. But the second reason is that, you know, it's all part of being the self-reliant gardener. So, you know, the less I have to rely on companies for my seeds, the better. Just look at what happened this year for so many folk. Now, I know it was an extraordinary year because the minute lockdown was announced, I'm sure there were a lot, hang on, I'm just going to shift around, I'm wonky. There were a lot of people who have never gardened before, who seized the moment wonderfully and said, you know what, if I'm going to be at home all the time, let's try and grow some veggies. Fantastic. And I really hope any of you who that applies to, I hope you're having some wonderful successes in the garden now, and I hope you'll carry on next year. I hope you've been bitten by the gardening bug. But yeah, you know, this year's the perfect example of, you know, suddenly Compostgate. And it wasn't just not being able to get the delivery, but suddenly companies had sold out of various seeds, and you know, people were struggling to get seeds. So it makes sense to me that I don't rely on someone else for my seeds. Of course I do for some of them, squash for example, because mine would all cross-pollinate. There's no point in me saving my own seeds. But yeah, I'm not relying on someone else. That's number one. Number two, it's free. It's free. Number three, if plants are happy to grow in my garden, it makes sense that they will continue to be happy to grow in my garden. So over the years, so these cucumbers that I'm growing this year, this is, I think, the 6th generation of my own saved seeds. So it makes sense that over time, the strongest plants grow. They are suited to my soil, they like my climate, all these things. They're acclimatised to my garden. Brilliant. Germination rate from my own seeds, fantastic. So when I am seed saving with the cukes, it's the one, it's so crunchy, annoyingly crunchy. I won't try and show you that one. With any seed saving that I do, I'm looking for a couple of things when I earmark the plant that I want to save my seed from. So I mentioned about a week or so ago, I'd been harvesting the cucumbers. I'd actually missed a couple and they'd gotten really big. They got to the stage of like, probably don't want to eat them. But actually they're perfect candidates for seed saving because the whole plant that they're on is really vigorous. It's climbed and climbed and climbed and climbed. So it's, you know, it's got vigor. The actual plant it's on, it's, you know, it's healthy looking, da da da. These fruits, they were some of the first to come. They were, you know, obviously, you know, gagging to get here. And then the fruits themselves, they are beautifully formed in terms of shape and size. So that tells me they've had good pollination. So therefore, the seeds inside them should be good, viable seeds. And what I'll do now is I'll replicate nature. So I'm going to try and sort of show you on. Can you see it starting to go a bit yellow? Don't want to eat it because it's gone a bit yellow. For my seed savers, I'm going to leave them on the vines. I'm going to leave them. It'll be weeks. When it comes to it, I will show you. They will go completely yellow. They'll almost go a sort of brownish colour. They will start to get a bit soft. Basically, they will start to rot. And when I say sort of replicating nature, in nature what would happen, roughly speaking, is that fruit gets overripe. Eventually it will drop off the plant, land on the soil. The seeds are contained inside, of course, but as that fruit breaks down and starts to rot, it releases the seeds. So that's what I'm going to try and replicate. Not the letting it drop off and rot on the floor to release the seeds, but I will try to catch it in that moment just before it would fall to the ground. And that's telling me that the seeds are absolutely mature inside. I don't want to take them yet because the seeds haven't really matured. Let it drop, except not let it drop because I don't want it to rot in the garden, if you see what I mean. Then take it home, scoop my seeds out, ferment them. I'll show you that when it comes to it. But yeah, for now I'm going to carry on getting out the crinkly dead stuff. I mean, it crumbles to nothing. And I do apologise both to Gabby and to everyone that I didn't bring you the potassium bicarbonate this year. In theory, I could still do it for the squash. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I'm having a maybe or maybe not month. There we go. So I'm going to carry on with this and then I'm going to have a lot of water because turn it off. What fell? I heard something fall then. Was it a tomato? What fell? Something fell. I heard a bump. Never mind. Yeah, I'm going to go and have some water. Oh, yeah, right, buddy. I'm suddenly feeling a bit green about the gills, which I think is my body's way of saying, get the heck out of here now. yeah, running with sweat. No matter how much water I'm drinking, yeah, I don't feel bleh. I don't feel at my best. How are you doing though, buddy? Oh, you're always at your best, aren't you, gorgeous boy? So, watering, that's it. The good thing, licking my salty, sweaty arm. The good thing, of course, at the moment is nothing's desperately needed in the garden by way of my input apart from watering. I would like to get that spud bed done, and there's hair everywhere, look. Oh, you're molting, aren't you, because it's so hot. I'd like to get my brassicas in, but like I said, you know, there's no point because I'm so sweaty, the hair's just sticking to me. Oh, mister, you need a good brush, don't you, get all this loose hair out. Should we just have a good cuddle to get it out? Sorry, digressing. Yes, I'm going to wait for this heat and humidity to pass before doing anything, you know, big or whatever. Oh, he's done exactly what Poppy did the other. There's nothing. Oh, he's not as delicate as Poppy, you can hear. Oh, he's found a crumb. Oh, so lost my track. There's nothing desperately needs doing in the garden apart from watering and harvesting. But as I was saying at the top of this video, on days like today, I know that when I get home in a minute, well, not in a minute, in a 2 and a bit hours, because I've got to do the watering, I know that the last thing I'm going to want to do is be sweating away in my kitchen with pans of boiling water for blanching my beans, and even though I have the ice baths on the go to then plunge them into, it's hot. I don't want to do that today, so I'm not gonna. And you know, the difference between harvesting today and in maybe a couple of days' time, it's not really going to make much difference. But I tell you what, I might not wait a couple of days to come back and get those tomatoes and a cucumber off and have my first of you know what. Oh, I can't wait. That'll be another day. For now, it's time for me to say cheerio to you all. I'm just watching. Rusty, what are you doing? You see, you're in a pickle now, aren't you? Because you don't know where to jump. Crazy cats. You crazy cats. Nosy cat. Yes, cheerio from me and the cats. He's going to try and jump the whole way. You're too old to jump that far. No, he's not. What a good jump. Oh, you're a good jumper still, you old boy. Aww. Yeah, me, Rusty, Poppy, Rosie, whoever, we will see you again in the garden soon. But before I see you in the garden, I'll probably see you at home again. Until then, look after yourselves. Bye for now. Yeah. What's into you today? Do you just want an extra big cuddle? Oh yeah, should we just do this for the rest of the day? I'm too hot to cuddle you, Rusty. I'm so hot, I don't really want cuddles. Oh, you beauty. Bye for now.